happened?
We were hoping you could tell us. All we know is that Binary found you. My theory? You somehow crossed through a tear in space-time. You are now in a reality parallel to your own, which is, of course, impossible.
Hello and welcome back to A Stark Contrast, where we discuss the differences and similarities from Marvel Comics to their MCU counterparts. And we are your hosts, Geoffrey
And Dai.
Hello, and welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back.
Happy X-Men 97 week.
Woo! One of my favorite weeks in a long time. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
So great.
Yes.
So much stuff.
Yes.
So much great stuff. So much great response. Like, I didn't even want to talk about it too much because we're doing a mini Marvel next.
Yeah.
And, like, we're clearly going to talk about it a lot there.
And we're going to have at least...
It's probably going to be a mini X-Men.
Yeah. And we're going to have
Marvel.
at least 4 episodes under our belt by that time.
Yeah, by then. Maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so excited, so stoked. Had me a celebration. We were supposed to record last night, but I was like, Jeff, there's an X-Men 97 like event. Can I go?
I was like, so, I mean, it wasn't even that. It was kind of just like at that bar, canteen.
Yeah.
I was like, that's random, but all right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So my homie here was so polite to let me go live my nerd life.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it was super great to like watch it among fans,
fellow
like,
nerds,
super duper nerds.
Oh,
yeah, and everybody. It was very similar to the fan event reactions, like because there were people there that had not watched it yet. So like when big things happen,
they
I'm
hadn't
keeping the
watched the
spoilers
episodes
out.
yet?
Yeah, I'm keeping the spoilers out. But like when big moments happened, like someone was like, "No!" Oh, like you could hear I was like, "Oh,
Yeah."
So it felt new.
Wow. So they
again.
saved their viewing experience until that event.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then of course Ms. Lenore Zan was in attendance. Rogue herself. Had some great FaceTime with her. She's absolutely amazing.
Woo!
As always. But yeah, so love it. First reaction, just love it.
Dude,
Love
that was
it.
it. Yeah. I
Incredible.
was like, this is a really well written show.
Yeah.
The Marvel Animation Studio looks like they're starting off on a very strong
Incredibly.
foot.
Yeah. Is What If not on the animation slate?
It didn't say, well, at least in their intro, it doesn't say Marvel
It's
Animation.
the studios.
It just says Marvel Studios. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Well, then maybe that'll change. Who knows?
maybe, yeah.
But yeah, we'll be very excited to talk more about the show in our next episode, especially because once again, Jeff didn't grow up in the 90s quite like some of us did.
Yeah, I was born in the 90s.
Yeah, you were quite literally born in the 90s. So to see it and experience it and hear it from your perspective, I think will be really enjoyable for not only me, but I think everybody else. But as far as our top news goes, let's get right into it because this is a pretty long list, all things considered. Jeff and I are finally going to go to a convention together.
Oh, yeah.
So next week is WonderCon here in Anaheim, California.
Is it next week already?
It's next week already, buddy. It's already April.
Oh my God, it is because I put an out of office for work on that Friday.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And I was like, oh my God, it is next week.
It's next week, yeah. So, unfortunately, like we're only going Friday. So if by some chance you spot us and you listen to the show,
say hi.
Say hi. I'll try to remember to bring some stickers or something to hand out. But yeah, we're going Friday. That's going to be super fun. We're going to miss a lot of the major panels that take place on Saturday, but you're going to get a great feel
of like a con
of what
general.
a convention is like. Yeah, especially WonderCon, because WonderCon is a baby sister show of San Diego Comic-Con. So yeah, it'll be a good time. Marvel Gaming is heating up for the season, not only on mobile but beyond. Also dropping the trailer for 1943. Did you forget about this? Because I completely forgot that they were doing this.
Like, I mean, if we're being honest, like, I just haven't thought of the name in a while.
Yeah.
Since like they said like, oh, this is Marvel 943. I just remember being Black Panther and Captain America.
Yeah.
So
because they had mentioned, I think they revealed it Comic-Con.
Something, I think so, because it was during strikes and everything.
That's right.
So
yeah. So when it popped up, I was like, oh.
Yeah, and it was a full-on trailer too.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. Very excited for that.
The one thing that caught my ear was he's like, now we have what was it? We have you and Captain America running around, two super soldiers running around, and then someone said like nah, make that 3, and that's like, who's the third one?
Bucky.
Yeah, like who's the third one?
Well, I've been asked a question already by one of our listeners, Andrew Frank, and he was also like, so what do you think? You think we're gonna get a little Winter Soldier? And I was like, there are 2 scenarios that I see that could happen. Bucky dies at the beginning of the game, and that's all we get of him, and they just call back to it in dialogue, and or he comes in the second, third like portion of the game, and you have to fight him at one point, but that's it. Like he's not gonna like. Maybe won't be the big baddie because it's going to be Red Skull. It's going to be like Hydra proper.
Yeah.
Because we don't really know how long it took them to even assimilate him into the Winter Soldier.
Sure.
So,
fair.
I think it's the first one. I think we're going to meet Bucky in the beginning and then that's it.
Yeah.
And there might be another super soldier.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see.
Oh yeah, we'll see. It looks like it'll be fun. Can't wait to see a gameplay trailer.
And which studio is doing this? That's a different studio.
I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it was the one. I think people said it was the same
Sky something.
This something like that. The same studio that did Uncharted.
Oh, it's Naughty Dog.
Maybe
not Naughty Dog.
What's another game like that that's not Naughty Dog? Yeah, you know.
That's cool though. Yeah.
I'm tweaking.
In other news, if you missed the memo, Spider Mondays are here and you can catch each and every Spider-Man film in theaters every Monday beginning April 15th at spideymovies.com. I was only gonna get tickets for Spider-Man 1, 2, and Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. And then Jeff comes over here and he's like, why don't you just do them all? And I was like, no. And then I visited the site and I bought them all.
Yeah, as if this is my fault.
It's totally your fault. So I have 8 Spider-Man movie tickets waiting for me. But again, the upside is, and I said this on Twitter, the tickets are only $5. So there's no crate.
Might as well.
It's like $7 a pop with the fees. And so I was like, oh, that's basically the price of 2 adult tickets for any regular movie. Mm-hmm. Why not?
Yeah.
So that's what I'll be doing every Monday. Hopefully, I don't know. I might flake on a few, but we'll see.
Before we move on, it was Skydance.
Skydance. Ooh, I was right there. Yeah, Skydance.
Yeah. So
cool. What other games have they done?
It's a great question.
In related Spider-Man news, I don't know if you saw this. This news dropped today. The Spider Within, an all-new Spider-Verse short, debuts on YouTube. Yeah, next week. So March 27th. Variety states that Sony Pictures Animation and ImageWorks have partnered with the Kevin Love Fund to digitally release an animated short, and it'll be incorporated into a mental health-focused lesson plan related to the Spider-Verse. So I guess I didn't look at the details just yet, but I believe it's Miles, but I don't know. Maybe it's actually another spider entirely. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we'll see. So that debuts, again, March 27th. That'll be interesting. I'm curious how long it is, what the treatment will be, and if it really does just kind of nestle into the larger Sony Animation look and feel.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's super exciting. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the last of our news for now, but yeah, you ready to get into it?
Let's do it.
Oh, one last related bit of news. X-Men 97 is clearly streaming on Disney Plus with 2 episodes at the time of this recording, now streaming. And then new episodes every Wednesday now through May 15th. So yeah, get ready every morning. Wake up, before
I
you
know
start
they're trying to make
adulting.
it like the
It's so there.
like the old days.
It's so good. I can't wait to talk about it more. But beyond that, just a reminder, we're not experts and we don't claim to be. We're just a couple of nerds nerding out. And in this episode, we're gonna nerd out all about Henry Hank McCoy, aka Beast.
Woo!
Yeah, so created by the greats Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Hank's first appearance is, of course, X-Men #1, September 1963, more commonly referred to as Uncanny X-Men. And the issue title itself, the story title, is very short. X-Men. Just X-Men. And so do you remember the cover price, Jeff, of this 1963 book?
1963.
Yes.
My God. I mean, how many times have we... I mean, just X-Men.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 15. 12. Sorry. It's never 15.
Good call, bro.
It's never
12
15.
cents.
I think I made that mistake on one other one.
That's great.
I was just like, wait, it's 10.
It's so uncommonly 15.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you got it. 12
Yeah.
cents. Right on the nose. And of course, Beast is on the cover with the rest of the classic X-Men, including Angel, Iceman, Marvel Girl, Cyclops, as well as Magneto. And so when we recorded previous episodes that involved these characters, so far Professor X and Magneto, there were copies of the issue up to compare and contrast. There are currently none up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So all the ones that are quote unquote available have been bought up. And so there's nowhere you can just buy it unless you know a local store, which of course shop at your local comic book store. But yeah, there was none up when I did my research. And so on, at least on Shortbox, let me correct myself. At least on Shortbox, there was none. But last time when we did an episode, there was a CGC 4.5 up for a cool $42,000.
Ew. 4.5
for 42 grand. Yeah. And then I guess there is none currently. These are just the old stats. And on eBay there was an 8.5 that was available for $85,000.
You guys should be putting these things on. It's like asking Sotheby's or something to buy it up.
Yeah. It's so wild. And so the lowest, there are, again, also none. But last time there was a CGC 1.0 for $6,000. This is not bad, not great.
Not bad, not great. It's 1.0.
But it's also X-Men #1.
Yeah. There's one version out there that's like hanging by a page.
Yeah.
And then there's someone gonna be like, how much is this worth?
Well, it's funny you say that because there is a no grade CGC on eBay for $2,000. And then someone, speaking of pages, is selling pages.
Dude, that's insane.
Graded pages of this book.
First issue?
Of the first issue.
Of X-Men?
Of X-Men.
I mean, I get it.
For $250.
I mean, it's going to be worth more once in 2 years.
Sure.
Obviously. Like once the X-Men MCU versions come out.
Oh, yeah.
Then, yeah.
For sure.
Or maybe after Deadpool and Wolverine, maybe that...
Yeah, I know, honestly. Especially even now. Like, I feel like even now you can just see it surging, like, slowly in little increments.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying like, oh yeah, Feige's gonna do the X-Men right. This is how I know they're gonna do the X-Men right, because of how the 97 is looking.
Exactly. I agree. And so you could get a raw copy for about $2,000 just off the bat, but you'll almost never find it raw.
Sure.
Almost never. And so I did see that a 4.0 sold. That was the most recent sell of this book. A 4.0 sold for $10,000 in February of this year. And so that's twice as much. Twice as much? No. It is far less than the 4.5.
Oh, yeah.
That was up for 42 grand. So times are changing. Maybe it wasn't, 0.5 grade is, I guess, a lot compared to what it could have been. But the book is gonna only be worth more. There's no way it's going down.
Yeah.
Let's just say that.
I agree.
Yeah. So first exposure to the character.
Beast? Well, I mean, yeah, it's got to be Kelsey Grammer's.
Really?
I'm sure. Yeah, the first like X-Men probably going. Is it
Second. X2.
X2?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
think it was either X2 or X like 3, like the first original trilogy for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
yeah. Wow.
The makeup and everything.
Yeah.
Just the calming voice.
Which is phenomenal because, as you can tell now from the animated series, it's Kelsey did a fantastic job of sort of emulating the great George Buza as he speaks in the cartoon. 'Cause
Yeah.
that was like truly the first time you hear Beast talk.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe he was in Spider-Man, The Amazing Friends, like way back in the day, but yeah, it really resonates in a way that's like incomparable. Like when you think of Beast and when you hear Beast when you read Beast on comic pages,
yeah.
you hear that voice, and it's just like fantastic tonality to him. But I digress. Speaking of Beast, and so for me, oh god, geez, I don't know.
Really?
It's a core memory, dude. Like he's so like embedded in my
Sure.
brain
Yeah.
from before. Like because again, that comic is so classic because even perhaps before the animated show started, like High C back in the day used to slip like reprints of the comics into boxes. And so that was also one of my first comics, was like having a like sad copy of X-Men #1. I still have it. It's like water damaged and everything.
Oh my god.
Because they put it in High C. Like
That's fair.
yeah.
That's
so
valid.
sometimes they put it in the cooler and
Oh my god.
yeah. And so it's a little crinkly, but I still have it. But that's the earliest memory I can remember because so it predated the cartoon in the strangest way. Like it's not the same for Rogue.
Yeah.
Because Rogue was a, more modern character anyway. But yeah, that's the earliest memory I have of him aside the trading cards. I couldn't tell you exactly when, but he's always been there, if you will. And so speaking of trading cards, I have a 1992 Impel Marvel superhero set or X-Men set, I think. And the back, it's everything you need to know about Beast. And it states, as superhumanly strong and inhumanly agile in body as he is quick-witted and brilliant in mind, the mutant superhero known as the Beast continues to combat evil alongside the newly restructured X-Men, while adding both the sum of humankind's knowledge and to his ever-expanding million-dollar vocabulary. And so this one doesn't have his height and weight, but you can imagine it's probably like
Huge.
5'9" and 300 pounds or
Sure.
something. Yeah, like maybe even taller.
On the list of smartest people or heroes,
I knew you were gonna ask. He's up there.
top 10,
I would
top
say
5,
top 10 easy for
top
sure.
5.
Top 5, quite possibly. Like it's definitely like Mr. Fantastic, Tony Stark, and then from there, it's like it could even be Professor Xavier, Beast, and then somebody else. But let me see. Let's see. Let's do a quick Google. Smartest characters in Marvel.
This would be a good one.
Yep. There it is. 16 smartest comic characters ranked. I believe we have done this before. Perhaps in a...
Forget for which one. Was it Doctor Strange something?
Maybe. Okay, here we go. Number 16, Shuri. 15, Charles Xavier.
All right. Rapid fire it down. Yeah.
14, Riri Williams. 13, Dr. Stephen Strange.
Okay.
12, Steve Rogers. 11, the High Evolutionary. That's an interesting one. We haven't talked about him yet. 10, Peter Parker. Why am I doing an accent? 9, Henry McCoy.
Oh.
Yeah. 8, Amadeus Cho. 7, Hank Pym. 6, Bruce Banner.
Oh, that's fair.
There you go. 5, Tony Stark. 4, Victor Von Doom.
Okay.
3, Valeria Richards.
Oh.
2, Lunella Lafayette. Wow, she's up there. And number 1, Dr. Reed Richards.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize, or I didn't recall that Lunella was so high. So that's Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur.
So Pedro's got to be a smart person.
So this is why the dialogue of, I don't know if I buy that Pedro Pascal is going to be the smartest man in the world. But who knows?
He's going to speak Spanish and everyone's going to be like, hell yeah. That's right.
6 languages?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So let's dive into Hank. So Henry Philip Hank McCoy, aka Beast. So as you might recall in Professor X and Magneto, like we talked about the issue at length for both of these characters in the respective episodes we did about them. But when we first meet Hank in X-Men #1, he's one of the original students living at Xavier's mansion along with Scott Summers, Warren Worthington III, Bobby Drake, and then of course they're joined by Jean Grey, aka Marvel Girl. And so the one intriguing thing about all that is, you know, beyond what they serve you in the few panels flat about Hank's abilities, like he sweeps in and he's upside down and he's doing acrobats. Like, you know, they don't elaborate why he has become the Beast. They don't elaborate how his mutation came along.
Really?
They don't say any of that. They just come in and they're like, we have powers. But there's no rhyme or reason why. They're just mutated, you know? And so you don't get the full breadth of Hank's true origin story until 5 years later in, beginning in X-Men 49. And so X-Men 49 is actually the first appearance of Polaris, who is Lorna Dane, aka Magneto's other child, the green-haired one we talked about in his episode. And so it isn't in the actual main story of each of these issues alone. So it's 5 consecutive issues, X-Men 49 through 53. And it's not in the main story. It's actually in a sub-story that's at the end of the issue where they, for a long amount of time, actually explain the origin stories for each of these original X-Men. So with Hank, they tell the story before he's even born, and so it starts with his parents and how, you know, they get married and they're doing their thing. That's like 50s. You would imagine it's the 40s, 50s era, and so, you know, like radioactive plants are popping up everywhere in, like, you know, rural towns and such. And so that Hank's father, Norton, weds Edna, the mother. They move to this rural town, and the father works for an energy plant, an atomic energy plant. And so after a near meltdown at the plant, Edna, her persistence ensures that, you know, she's like, I don't feel safe here. I don't think we should be here. I don't want you to be hurt at work. And, you know, she's constantly like on edge because Norton quite literally stopped the plant from exploding and destroying the entire radius of that city. And so he, you know, after her, she just lays it into him like, please, we need to leave. He's like, okay, we'll leave. And so he goes and gets a normal job. They move to a regular town, and then they're thankfully blessed with a child. And so the doctor, you know, as they're surprised with like, oh, we're pregnant. The doctor says, oh, you know, it's so funny when you look at the issue, like you couldn't draw a doctor more worried. Like, the worry on this doctor's face. He's like,
sure.
You know, I don't know that your child is gonna be healthy, and you might die. And
that's funny.
And it's all because of Norton's work at the plant.
Yeah.
So what the doctor has essentially told them is that your sperm is radioactive.
Oh my gosh.
Your child may have a mutation or suffer in even being born. And so thankfully, their son is born without any like notable ailments. Like he's a healthy baby boy, aside from the fact that his hands and feet are enlarged. So they weren't like adult sized. They were just larger than they should be for a baby of his size. And so later in time, like as early as him in his 2s as a toddler, he has noticeable strength, intelligence, and acrobatic activity. And so in this origin story, I think it's is it the first one? It might be the first one or the second one. Hank is quite literally in his terrible twos, and he's trying to get a ball or toy that rolls under his crib. And he picks up the crib, and he's like, "I'm gonna get you, ball." He's like,
hello?
It's like, oh. And so his parents are like, "Oh, well, okay, it could be worse." And so Hank just grows to be, after that, he just grows to be an otherwise normal human being, if you will.
Yeah.
He's just got larger hands and feet. No big deal. And so that's essentially the origin of Hank McCoy. And so we actually don't get more of his story until much later, which we'll talk about when we get there. But yeah, Henry Hank McCoy, first portrayed by Steve Bassick in 2003's X2. So do you remember this at all? I forgot this until I did my
When you
research.
say it says small TV cameo, does that mean he was on the TV in the
Yes.
movie?
Yeah. So he was on a TV in X2. And so I guess Kelsey didn't come in till X3. So he's like on the TV, and I think it's at a bar or something. I don't remember. And it's just like Dr. Henry McCoy. Yeah, and he's human. He's still in his human form.
Interesting.
So
Maybe.
somewhere in between X2 and 3, the mutation happens, or he was using something to guise his blue fur.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting. I totally forgot about that. And I was like, oh, that's right. And so he was otherwise portrayed by Kelsey Grammer in 2006's X-Men 3, The Last Stand.
Yeah.
And then portrayed most recently by Nicholas Hoult in 2011's X-Men First Class. But once again, last seen...
Technically last scene.
Yeah. Last seen 2023's The Marvels portrayed by Kelsey Grammer once again, but CGI. Full-on CGI.
Bigger and beefier.
Love it.
Yeah.
Because now you see it.
Yeah, because now
it.
you're like, oh yeah, that's Beast.
That's Beast. It's exactly what he looks like everywhere, and it's so enjoyable. I can't get over it. Like I haven't watched The Marvels since I saw it in theaters, but
I
But
rewatched it, and
Yeah, you
it's
did,
it's
yeah.
like it's even crazier. Like,
in retrospect, yeah.
and then in ultra HD,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
you're just
sure.
like, oh, that's really him. Like he's playing with it, like
That's
his
so good.
big hands with
Yeah.
his glasses.
Yeah.
He's like, boy, Neri found you, and I was just like, oh my
I
god.
love that. Yeah, so that's absolutely fantastic. Oh, very quickly, here is the screenshots from the comic.
Oh, lifting the.
So that's him, like, just in the air, and like, yeah, and he's like,
He's
"I'm
just
gonna get you,
lifting
ball."
everything.
Yeah, and he's just a big little boy, and yeah, he had formidable strength all around, all the time. But yeah, so in live action, each live action version of the character has been a bit different than the rest.
Yeah.
Not only visually, but tonally. And so Grammars is a former student of Xavier, who is now a member of the U.S. Cabinet as the Secretary of Mutant Affairs. And then Hoult is obviously playing the younger version of Kelsey Grammars, who is set in the 70s. And he's like, in an iteration of the same team, going through the growing pains and young mutant problems and all that stuff. So it's interesting to think about it in that way because, yeah, it's not necessarily Hoult wasn't necessarily a reboot. He was
A younger version.
he's a prequel.
Yeah.
In a weird way. And of course, the latest iteration, as Jeff noted, is Hank aligns with that of his comic book counterpart. He looks exactly like he does in the comics, but we're still not sure what timeline he's part of.
We don't know what universe they're in. At all.
Yeah, so that's going to be very interesting to see when they clear it up. And I do think you're right. I think it will hit us in Deadpool and Wolverine.
It might. I
think so. Because Logan's already in it, so why not?
And they were in the X Mansion.
Yeah.
So
They were
which
very
is
much in the X
which you don't
Mansion.
even think about until like you see the big X circle
Oh, yeah.
going into Cerebro.
giveaway. Yeah.
And you're kind of like, wait, they're in the
Yeah.
school.
That's the exact moment that I freaked out when we watched it.
When you saw
When I saw the background, I was like, oh my gosh.
like they're in the mansion,
And they're in
underground.
The mansion, yeah. the mansion that we're all familiar with, and which is, of course, carried over between both sets of X-Men. So
yeah,
it's like, okay, so maybe it is straight up Fox first, because that's the big deal, right? Like, this is the whole premise of Deadpool and Wolverine.
So much free reign MCU has now.
Can't wait. It's going to be awesome. And so, first of, I believe, 2 pop quizzes. Are you ready?
No.
This one's tricky. I mean, not tricky. It is a kind of tough question, but do you remember why they're called X-Men?
What? That's like the most like deep philosophical reason.
Yeah.
That's like asking, do you know why you're alive? Like what? What?
Yeah.
Why they are called X-Men?
Yeah.
Which is also, it's a valid question.
Yes.
Charles Xavier's children?
That's not a bad assumption, because most people would probably be like, Xavier,
Sure.
X-Men.
Yes.
And so this was actually a point of contention for like X-Men Evolution, because in X-Men Evolution, I think it was Storm, somebody very distinctly said Xavier. They didn't say Xavier. They said Xavier. And I was like, it's Xavier because of X-Men. But that's not entirely the reason. It is partially the reason.
I'll take partial.
Partial is, yeah, you get partial credit for
I'm
that
a partial kind of guy.
The official version, and he says it in the first issue of X-Men, is that they're called X-Men because they have something extra special that makes them extraordinary. Therefore,
fair.
They
have
X-Men.
that X factor in them.
Exactly, and that's another team.
X. Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So that's essentially why.
Oh,
yeah.
The more you know.
The more you know. So we can jump into aesthetic right off the bat after that.
Big blue guy.
Big blue guy. And so you can see, Jeff, there are not only 4, there are 5 pictures on this document.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he rolls over. But first, yes, Beast as an adult, he's just, big, broad guy. Kind
Brolic.
of like a what you would imagine Ron Swanson would look like, but not quite.
Honestly,
right?
I see it.
You see it, right?
It's like, it's Ron Swanson's juiced up brother.
Yeah, like
who's
burly.
from Jersey.
Yeah, Jersey.
Yeah,
He's from Jersey.
very specific, but
yeah.
if you saw, you would probably get it.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was the original Hank, and he had a couple of suits before he turned into Big Blue. Later on, and I believe it was Amazing Adventures number 11, and I have the cover here for you. And so we'll talk about that in a second. But yes, this is the first issue that he is actually furry.
He is gray.
The Beast. And he's notably gray, which we're going to discuss shortly. And so, of course, the second picture on our doc, Jeff, is the classic Jim Lee, the baby blue, the blue-looking Beast. And then, of course, Kelsey Grammer and Nicholas
That's how
Hoult.
he looked?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Kelsey Grammer for sure in that makeup.
Yeah, right? You can tell. And then Nicholas Hoult, a little more kitten and wolf-like.
That's what he... What?
Yes.
I got to rewatch all these movies again.
You still haven't done it yet. No, well, if you have to choose one.
Well, I think he looked like... I thought he looked a little bit different, but...
Who?
Nicholas Hoult. Nicholas Holt's version.
He did a little bit, I think, in the second one.
But I also remember him being not the Beast in a lot of those movies.
No, they were like money shot. They needed his real face.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get it. But also, come on. But yeah, if you have to pick between watching X-Men the Animated Series or binging the movies, watch the series.
Copy.
And then, of course, as we scroll down, the adorable version that we've been introduced.
Dude, he looks so good.
He looks so good.
Wow.
He's so cute and adorable, and like you just want to.
They kept that really well hidden, man.
Right?
Like I was not expecting that.
Honestly.
That post-credits scene.
No, not at all. I was like, well, they're not going to do. Holy crap! And then it was Beast.
And he's like big brolic chest.
Yes.
Shoulders.
He's perfect.
Wide face. this small square rectangular glasses.
I love him.
It's so fun. It was
It's
so fun.
so
I was like, oh my god,
good.
that's him.
Yeah.
And I was like, is that Kelsey Grammer?
It's so good. And then, yeah, to have the voice be Kelsey Grammer on top of that is like, oh god, it's just so perfect. And so actually I wanted to read a caption that that the lead character designer of X-Men 97, Amelia Vidal, had posted not too long ago on her Instagram account. And she's essentially posting all of the main pictures that she designed for the characters. And then for Beast, she put, for the design of Beast, in addition to reinforcing his anatomy, I wanted to preserve his dual appearance, in which he can look threatening when fighting, but in his normal appearance, his face must look friendly.
Yeah.
Which I think is very consistent with the Marvel's version.
Yeah.
Where you can see, like, again, I want to hug him. And
Yeah.
be like, oh, Beast, but you know that he could also turn.
Yeah,
And, like, rip
I mean, it's
things in half.
it's even like what I got when I started the X-Men 97.
Yeah.
And in that first scene that you see Beast when he's waking up, that
Roberto da Costa.
Roberto da Costa.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that's Beast. He has this calming, voice, but
yeah.
you're kind of like, oh, this guy's still
Yeah.
he's a big beast.
Big.
He's a beast.
He's a beast.
But yeah, I really like the Marvel's version. I was like,
it's
this
so
is so
good.
sick.
Yeah, it's quite honestly Jim Lee's version brought to life, because, like, as you can quickly see between Kelsey Grammer and Nicholas Hoult and the Marvel's version, is that, like, when they were just doing the prosthetics and the makeup, the hair is like, sure.
Yeah.
It's like a dude that's like moderately furry when it comes to Kelsey Grammer, but he's still Kelsey Grammer. You know what I mean? Like, it's not quite as beastly as you would really want him to be.
Yeah.
But it's obviously something of the times. Like, they probably couldn't have pulled this off 10, 20 years ago.
Oh man.
Like, he would have looked not great.
It would have cost so much money
And so much
for
money.
it to look like that.
Absolutely. And so realistic, too. So for them to bring back Kelsey Grammer to do the mocap for it, I'm just like, oh, that's fantastic.
He did the mocap too? I thought he
believe
did the
so.
voice.
I think he
Damn,
did.
really?
I think so.
Oh,
Yeah. Because he doesn't
cool.
have to do anything.
Yeah, no, seriously. That's like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did. And so it's particularly fantastic because it perfectly pairs, like you said, the mannerisms. Like, he has the mannerisms and he's still very much Beast, even with his voice. And so it's a wonderful nod to again, George Buza
Yeah.
and the Jim Lee version put together in real life. And so, listener question before we continue with the aesthetics, because it is a big factor of Beast, obviously. Super fanboy guy.
Hey.
You can only keep one: 1960s Beast, the animated series Beast, Nicholas Holt's Beast, or Fraser Beast, as he called him. Fraser.
Okay. I see why.
Yeah,
That's valid.
that's
but
valid. It's fine.
I am not qualified to answer this question. So, Dai.
If it's the Marvel's Beast, then Fraser Beast, for sure.
Sure.
But if I have to pick one and only one, animated series.
Okay.
He is perfection. Perfection.
It's valid.
Who else can recite William Blake
True.
so eloquently?
I am going to have to watch that.
He does a lot. I tried to find a list of all of the poets because Beast is a huge fan of literature.
Yeah.
As he would be.
As
And-
one is.
And quite literally, almost every other episode, he quotes somebody. Somebody.
I believe it.
And he does it so well. And he did it in episode 1, I think. He quoted somebody.
He did.
Yes, he did. And so it's something that he does. And again, George Buza is just the most fantastic iteration. And I'm so glad that they're adapting that version in live action. So yeah, let's bring it on. And so as far as Hank's appearance does go, he is of anthropoid / simian physique with genius level intelligence, which is anthropoids are beings that resemble a human, the latter referring to something resembling monkeys or apes. So he's a cross between the two of those factors, which does justify why he looks like he does currently, if you will. He's human. He has human characteristics, but he does also have some, ape-like features, if you will. And especially, again, he's broad and his grips are huge. He has huge paws, but not paws, they're hands, but, very ape-like. But it is worth saying that Beast wasn't always blue, as Jeff pointed out on the issue of Amazing Adventures number 11. And so that story is in part when Beast essentially graduates from the Institute and he decides to go out and make something of himself beyond the X-Men. And so he joins this corporation called the Brand Corporation. And he was working on this material, the solvent that could temporarily grant any human a mutation or a mutant power. And so it was essentially created to last only with the intention of only lasting for an hour. And so he caught wind that his superior was plotting against him, and he decided, okay, I've created this concoction, and I can't fight against them as myself, because then he was like worried that, oh, my identity is going to be given away, because he doesn't have the X-Men suit. He can't hide, if you will.
Yeah.
And so he thinks, oh, but if I take the mutation, perhaps I will become a true beast, and they won't know it's me. And then when I'm done, I'll change back to normal with the antidote. And so he takes this concoction he's created and he sprouts the fur, and then he's more beastly, and he's like, okay, I can do it. And then so he takes on this, the people, the security guard or whatever. But he realizes that time moves differently in his new mutation. And so for him, it feels slow, but it's actually rapid in human time. And he has lapsed the hour and trapped himself as the beast, the literal beast. And the antidote does not work after the hour. So he's stuck. He's stuck in the furry phase.
Damn.
Yeah, and so that's how that came to be. And it was, in fact, gray at first. There's no real rhyme or reason as to why it turned blue. I think it was more of a visual thing.
Sure. Yeah.
Because his popping is blue. Like gray would be like, gray. But blue is great. But yeah, this whole thing, the pointed ears, the sharp teeth, the gray fur, it's something that they similarly depicted in the films with Nicholas Hoult. I don't remember which film it was, but it might have been First Class, honestly. But yeah, he's tinkering around in his little laboratory and he did something and he was like, poof, he was blue. So yeah, they carried that over pretty well. Hank himself has also undergone many transformations in the comics, not only regressing back to his human form, but also the complete reverse. And so he's experienced some secondary mutations, influencing a more cat-like, beast-like look depending on the story and the artist. And so, like, there is a moment in time, I think it was the early 2000s or 10s, where he straight up looks like a Catman. And he has different color fur, like perhaps even white fur, I think on one cover, but full on, like, I don't know if this is probably way beyond your understanding or remembering, but there was a show back in the day, I think in the 70s or 80s, and it had Linda Hamilton.
Okay.
From Terminator 2 fame, and she was on a show called Beauty and the Beast.
Oh.
And the beast in that show looked like a very lion cat-looking beast, which is what beasts look like at one point. And so, again, depending on who drew him, sometimes he would be a little more monkey. Sometimes he'd be a little more just beastly, if you will, than straight up cat. But they've pulled it back, they've dialed it back, and he's back to what the people know, in more or less in the comics. And so, another fun fact about his appearance: Wikipedia notes that Grammer's makeup took nearly 3 hours to apply.
Jeez.
And it involved applying latex prosthetics before painting his eye area and lips blue, applying various hair pieces and wigs, and a muscle suit covered with a hand-punched fur suit. So
I believe it.
Yeah, apparently Nicholas Holt's makeup took 4 hours.
Jeez.
Which is kind of crazy.
How'd it take longer?
How did it take longer? Yeah, I'm like, okay. But yeah, I didn't much love Nicholas Hoult. I thought he looked a little goofy.
I don't remember it that much, and I've watched Days of Future Past.
Yeah,
a lot.
I think where they missed the mark with Hoult was that he was always wearing something, which of course was to make it easier for Nicholas.
Sure.
But he's wearing the suit, and so it's quite literally his arms and his head. Whereas
And it's
with
like
Kelsey,
fur popping out type of thing.
yeah. Whereas with Kelsey, like he just had a vest, and
Sure.
you could see his broad chest and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. But in related news to his aesthetic, we did conduct a listener poll across the board on all of our social media, asking who they preferred, Kelsey Grammer or Nicholas Hoult. Did you have any idea? Did you look at them?
Oh, I didn't get a chance
Yeah,
to.
so every single place that we posted the poll, Kelsey Grammer won. And so it was like 60-40 on, I think, Instagram, but everywhere else is 80-20.
I'm pretty sure it's the voice. Like it's
The voice makes everything.
yeah.
It really does.
Like it's Kelsey's voice.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic voice. Especially for this character.
Yeah. I agree.
So powers and paraphernalia. Yeah, what you see is what you get when it comes to Beast. Superhuman strength, speed, stamina, durability, agility, reflexes, senses, and dexterity, as well as a regenerative healing factor, minor pheromone manipulation.
Pheromones?
That's how he gets the ladies.
That's hilarious.
And razor sharp claws and fangs. And so he's, of course, also genius level intellect, excellent in hand-to-hand combat, and a master tactician. And so the interesting thing about his genius level intellect is that there's no true clarification on whether that's part of the mutation or not, or if he's just a straight up genius because he was born that way. But yeah, it's pretty consistent in the live action and in Foxverse MCU. Though it seems less cool for now, but I think he's gonna surprise us. Hopefully, we'll get some real action.
Hope so. Like we need him running through, jumping on things, wall climbing,
Please,
slashing faces.
definitely.
Get real crazy.
Oh my god, I would love to see that. Like straight up beast mode.
I mean, you got to
Straight up beast mode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. At least once. Just
at
once.
least.
While quoting William Shakespeare.
Exactly. It's like while he's climbing the walls, as the great Shakespeare said.
I knew him well.
Slash. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like imagine. I mean, look, it could happen, but imagine like Deadpool running into like Beast.
Oh my
Be like,
gosh. Oh my god. Every time you bring up Deadpool, I'm like, God, the dream scenarios.
Literally anything can happen. I don't know. Like I said, I have no idea.
I can already hear like a butthole waxing joke.
Yeah.
Like something ridiculous.
So I'm ready.
Yeah. So good. So, family, friends, and affiliations. Right off the bat, like we mentioned up top, Norton and Edna McCoy. Yeah, that's essentially all they show of the parents is in those flashback stories. We don't get much more of them. They do have subsequent appearances later along in time, and they're both listed as still alive.
Mm-hmm.
So they're in the ether somewhere, but they're definitely not in his life as much as they perhaps could be, if you will. They're just not that important anymore. They've kind of lived out their purpose. Definitely no live action counterparts. So I doubt we'll ever see them either. They're not super duper important aside the fact that they are his parents and they're probably otherwise great people. This section is particularly short because it's just too much to go through, especially when we talk about the X-Men.
Sure.
So
they're all one big happy family.
Yeah, exactly. Is that your like mid-rogue?
Dude, honestly, tried it, didn't like it.
Do it again.
No, I can't do it now.
Have Lenore critique it.
Me, a Southern Belle impression?
Come on.
I can't even.
Please.
No, I can't even do it. I can't even I can't even find the inflections to like get it through my mouth. To be like,
what if we do Sandy Cheeks? I'll be there faster than
see, I can't even do that. I'm just not good at Southern accents.
Not at all, really.
I don't no, not
one big happy family.
See that's like way more That's graceful. If I do it, it might just come off like, you're like
redneck?
like no, just like you're racist. Oh no, that's probably like I'm trying to like make fun of them, but I'm not.
Yeah, no, for sure.
It's just like
No, I get you.
I can't.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Well, yeah, I can't do it. I was about to try it. I was like, no, I'm not gonna do it.
So from the tangent of inflections.
Yes.
So yeah, big giant family. Do you have any? I mean, gosh, have you even seen enough material to formulate like some of your favorite moments between Beast and the X-Men?
Oh no,
because I feel even in the films they isolated him quite a bit. Like, quite honestly, the Marvels is like such a fantastic version and example that I would almost say that.
I think the thing that came to mind, like right as you said that, was a moment. It was when in Days of Future Past, when Wolverine goes to the school when he first goes back in the 70s, and it's Nicholas Hoult, and then he's like, where's the professor? And then they're not a school anymore, so so Nicholas Hoult is like, I don't know what you're talking about, and Wolverine's like, look, bub. And then so that's like what I can think of, and then he throws Hank, and then he jumps, and then Hank jumps at Wolverine, and then
Who are you?
I'm Hank McCOY. I look after the house now.
You're Beast? So where's the professor?
There's no professor here.
You're pretty strong for a scrawny kid. Come on. Sure there's not a little beast in there?
Professor!
They always had like a little undercut of like a lion roar.
Yeah.
Underneath.
Yeah. And then he's like, and then he never, like, especially in Days of Future Past, he never wants to get out of his human body.
Sure.
And he's like, and he's like, and then Wolverine's always like, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot from the animated series for sure. Just because he has such great relationships with them in the series, and they do allude to the whole Fab Five thing, so he is particularly closer with Cyclops and Iceman and Jean and whatever. Iceman's not in it as much, nor is Angel, but yeah, with Jean and Cyclops, and also of course Aurora. Like, he and Aurora get along really well because, despite her being Storm and him being Beast with like very active names, they're two of the most calm characters that there possibly could be. So they work very well together. But yeah, I love his relationships in the animated series, both the new and old, as well as Evolution for that matter. Anywhere that he's in the capacity of his comrades, if you will, his colleagues, he's always great. He's always a great like mediator and peacekeeper and voice of reason for the most part. And I think they carried it over well in the films. He's definitely more, because we saw so much of Nicholas Hoult compared to Kelsey Grammer. We have to remember it's a younger version. So it's kind of like, I would almost liken him to the Beast without the hair.
Sure.
So a bit more tame, a bit more wild.
Yeah, and maybe like not able to control his powers that well.
Spontaneous.
Yeah.
A bit more raucous, if you will.
Like, he doesn't know if he'll go back to his human form if he goes full into his beast form.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I do enjoy the animated version more, just simply because he is in it more. But yeah, hopefully we will see a lot more of the on-screen version with Kelsey Grammer and CGI. So are you ready for your second pop quiz?
Sure.
So this one's a multiple choice.
Oh.
It is comic book based, but
Okay.
multiple choice. So, of the following teams, which was Beast not a member of?
Of course.
In the comics. And so, as a founding member of the X-Men, he has not only left the X-Men, but he's also joined multiple teams. Because again, one of the top intellects, so he's viable anywhere he goes.
Yeah.
And so he has jumped books and joined different teams before. So, of these choices, which one was he not actually a part of? Avengers, Midnight Suns, the Defenders, the Illuminati, or Sword?
Oh. See, my gut automatically deduced, because he's smart,
Yes.
that he is part because like a sword, they do a lot of research and all that. So I'm assuming they wanted to use his intellect for sword. And the other, what was the one before that? Illuminati. Like he's also like, but he's not like magical like that. But he is smart.
He's wiggling his fingers for the record.
But he's, Reed Richards in the Illuminati, so I mean.
See, I'm telling you, Jeff, and I said this to somebody the other day. I was like, Jeff has come such a long way with his comic book knowledge. And the fact that you can even say that, I'm like, chef's kiss. He's learning.
But like Midnight Suns, like that's the Moon Knight, right? That's like the god type.
God tier.
God
like,
type. God
like
type powers.
Yeah.
Like you have to be part of like a ritual or something. I don't know.
They're like, I would even call them like the gothy ones, the goth kids.
Yeah. Emo goth kids who hate their parents. So when you said Midnight Suns, for some reason my gut said that. Because the other choices are Avengers and Defenders, that's like a like, see, this is why me being in like only the physical, like digital media, I'd be like, of course he wasn't. Like, look, have you seen that team? You think Beast would be in that?
Yeah.
you think Beast would join those people? I don't know. Maybe in the comics they did.
Yeah.
So I'm either saying, watch, if it's gonna be Avengers and I'm gonna lose it. Because obviously, like, that sounds like, yeah, him as an Avenger, sure. It sounds right, but is it? I don't know. Now I'm talking myself into an answer because I thought I was so confident.
Yeah.
Like that's like my what's it called? That's like the dark horse Avengers. Because my heart says Midnight Suns, but my gut says Defenders.
So
but the dark horse is Avengers.
What's your final answer?
I'm gonna go Midnight. No, I just don't see it like because it's not like he's werewolf. Like he's not werewolf. Like werewolf and Midnight Suns would be like yes,
right?
Because yeah, duh. But they can't have two furry guys.
Two furries in
yeah,
one group.
yeah. That's just like no. Yeah. Every group has a token.
Sure.
Whoever.
Final answer.
I'm going Defenders.
Defenders?
No, don't do that.
No, I just want to make sure I heard right.
Yes.
Jeff.
Oh, pain. Pain.
You were right the first time.
Avengers or Midnight Suns?
Midnight Suns. So close. I still want to give it to you. So it goes without saying that each team, like kind of what I led in with, is that even though people depart teams, they fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
So, for instance, originally the Avengers had 6 seats at their quote-unquote table.
Yeah.
And they were always filled. No matter if Hawkeye left, they would then put somebody else in, etc., etc. So all these teams revolved and had a revolving door in some manner. And so Avengers, he was in. Defenders, he was in fact in. Defenders, you have to remember, is not only Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
You know, in all of them. That's one of the most modern versions of it. But at one point, I'm pretty sure Angel, Beast, and Iceman were all Defenders with other folks, like the CB tier heroes.
Yeah.
And then of course you're dead on with Illuminati and Sword. Like, yeah, he's very viable with both of those factions. But Midnight Suns, that's the only one that he has not actually been a part of. And he's been part of more teams than that.
Yeah.
He's been on like 10, at least 10 or something. But yeah, you were so good though. You're right there. Well, it was great. You just did suck with your heart.
Life goes on. This is why I'm an overthinker.
You did great. So love interests. I wanted to give honorable mentions for Linda Donaldson, Vera Cantor, and Patricia Trish Tilby. Vera Cantor they met and begun dating in Hank's early days after double dates with Iceman and his then girlfriend Zelda, breaking up after Hank graduated from the Xavier Institute. And so, again, we mentioned this very briefly in our Rogue episode. Iceman has come out of the closet since the olden days, and so he used to be a little bit like Johnny Storm in a way, where he would just be like, "Hey, ladies," and just date groups of women.
Sure.
And so Hank got into the dating pool thanks to Bob because he was, a wingman of sorts. Then there's Linda Donaldson, who was a co-worker and lover to Hank McCoy when he first changed into his furry form. She makes an appearance in the very issue that he becomes his furry self. And if you follow the continuity of that, it ends up being revealed that she was actually this Agent 9 that took out his superior in the company. So she was basically a double agent. And then Trish, so Patricia Trish Telby. Trish was dating Hank just before his second mutation popped up, so pre-furry. And then, so Trish Telby was a public figure of sorts. I believe she was a newscaster or something in the industry. So she was dating him before he turned furry. The minute he turned furry, she stayed with him because he was still Hank. Underneath it all, she was still Hank. But then she got accused of bestiality. Straight up bestiality.
Oh my gosh.
They brought that into the comics. And then she was like, ooh, I don't like that. So we can't be together anymore. And she broke up with him.
Wow.
So that's messed up. Poor Hank. None of those characters have live action counterparts. I wouldn't see any necessity for them anyway, but they haven't even been used for sub characters at all. But there is one who is very prominent on screen, but in the comic book, Raven Darkholme, Mystique, no connection at all.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's nothing there. The fact that they're both blue is pretty much it, but they don't even interact that much. Mystique again, shapeshifter, she's dangerous woman, and they don't much interact whatsoever. But in the now dubbed MCU, Foxverse, whatever you want to call it, Raven Darkholme, Mystique, first portrayed by Rebecca Romijn and last portrayed by Jennifer Lawrence. So he definitely had no romantic link when it was Rebecca behind the helm, but full-fledged romance with Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique, which is so crazy to me to this day. And so again, like I think I said this in our Rogue episode, that as great as First Class is, as a fan who is familiar with the lore, I would audibly react in the theater because I was like, what?
Did you think it was like forced?
It was very forced to me because it was like Fox being like, we have these characters that we've used before.
Sure.
Let's just bring her back, and some weird masculine necessity to see Jennifer Lawrence almost naked probably played into it in some way, but whatever sells the seats, I guess.
Yeah.
And so it felt forced to me, like the whole, we covered this in Professor Xavier episode, that Charles and Mystique, they didn't have that origin story at all. They weren't siblings. None of that was consistent. The only thing that was consistent at all remotely was the fact that she and Magneto worked together in a Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Mm-hmm. Pretty much it. So when they rolled out the carpet for a romance with Beast and Mystique, I was like, what's happening here? Like, what's actually happening?
Makes no sense.
It was very bizarre. But it's fine. I got it. They had chemistry. They were dating in real life. So I guess that makes sense.
So I forget about that.
Yeah, they dated because of the film. Of
Sure.
course, but they were together for a bit.
As one does.
Yeah. And so the two clearly had feelings for one another, though I don't remember them acting upon it. So, like, there was always, like, a tension, but they didn't really get into it until, like, maybe Days of Future Past and then Dark Phoenix, like, full force.
Okay.
Nevertheless, Raven, at one point, attempted to get Hank to run away with her. And then he's like, I can't leave the X-Men. People, what does he say? Like, people need the X-Men.
Yeah, people
or something.
need, sure.
Yeah, and so he was like, no, and she's like, fine, bye. And then, of course, In their last moment of togetherness, Raven tells Hank that she loves him before she dies at the hands of a Phoenix Force-possessed Jean Grey.
Yeah.
That was a big rip. I honestly couldn't believe that actually happened.
Oh, like them killing Mystique?
Straight up, like 5 minutes into the movie. I was like, whoa.
That they did.
And pretty brutal. Which, of course, sets course for Hank throughout the rest of the movie. He's just pissed off and...
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, there isn't much actual consistency between his love interests in the films and the comics. But he does have some in each respectable column. Notable adversaries. So this was an interesting one to tackle because, again, in live action, you don't... Like, Beast doesn't have direct adversaries.
Yeah. It's like whoever the X-Men are facing.
Yeah.
in that moment.
Exactly right. And so I wanted to at least mention Orlando Furio, a.k.a. the Conquistador.
Oh, my gosh.
Conquistador.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is Hank's earliest adversary, and it predates his time with the X-Men. So this is what I was referring to near the top of the show, where it was the telling of his origin. And so further along the story, after you get past the portions of Hank being a baby and acclimating to his mutation, so to speak, they do take you straight into Hank as a teenager. And of course, he's a scholar. He's a bookworm. He is friends with other intellects and similar people. And so they first show him walking with a girl. He's got books in his hands.
Yeah.
And the football team is on the field and they're practicing. And the coach is really laying into the kids and like, you guys have to train better and blah, blah, blah. And so he essentially wants to teach them that like he could get a better team, so to speak. And so for whatever reason, he looks to Hank, sees Hank walking by and he goes, "You, come here." And Hank's like, oh no, I don't play football. Like I would rather not. And the coach is like, "No, here, toss this ball." I don't know why J. Jonah James this guy.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Just a natural
But
voice.
he's using that tone,
Sure.
right? And so he tells Hank to throw the ball, into which Hank throws the ball at, I don't know the terms, but the dude runs for it and he like catches it and he's like, "Oh!" And the coach is like, "Oh."
Yeah.
'Cause he has no idea.
I know exactly, yeah.
Yeah, right? He has no idea this kid has powers. And then he says, "Okay, kick the football. Give me your best shot." And he kicks it and it straight up pops. Or it goes like a
goes
mile
far,
away.
yeah.
It's the whole, you can see it in your head so perfectly. It's straight out of Spider-Man,
Yeah.
And so the coach then, like, not makes him, coerces Hank to join the team.
Sure.
And it actually brings Hank a lot of joy because
He's part of something, yeah.
He's part of something. He's getting recognition in a positive way to his mutation,
Yeah.
to something that he thought was like actually
A
going
bad
to
thing,
ruin
yeah.
his life. And so he becomes this fantastic football star and very famously, at least in a small town, famous enough that he's on TV and he's featured as like this wonder of sports. And the Conquistador is like this guy who's quite literally dressed as a conquistador. He's got a cape and he's got like armor, and it's just like, guys, what are we doing here? But again, 70s, whatever this was published. And so he has this, like they all do, he wants world domination.
Of
and
course.
he has to get his hands on this very specific piece of technology, but it's almost impossible. It's a very Indiana Jones situation where it's surrounded by lasers
Of course.
and you can only come in through one entry. It's every trope you can imagine.
Yeah.
And so he sees this Hank McCOY and his ability and how open he is about being able to do these acrobatics. And he's so efficient with it. And so he has this harebrained idea. He's like, I'm going to concoct this plan to get this juvenile.
Sure.
And use him to get the technology I need for my quest for world domination as the conquistador. And so, thanks to this on the other side of the state or whatever, thanks to this new machine built by Professor X called Cerebro, the X-Men sweep in to save the day. They're able to detect, oh, there's a mutant in this area. Let's go get him, as they do. And then by the end of the battle, Hank becomes one of the team. He joins the team. So they take on Conquistador, and he has, like you read the issue, and again, like Hank does do it because Conquistador takes his parents hostage.
Okay.
And so he threatens him, like, if you don't do this, I'll kill your parents. So Hank does it. The X-Men come, save the day, and then he's so grateful that he's like, I'm going to join your team. And the X-Men essentially MIB the town, and they wipe their memories. Jean or the professor wipes all their memories and knowledge of Hank becoming a football star.
Damn.
They just know that somebody did, but they don't know it's Hank.
Damn.
And so his parents don't know nothing. They're just like, oh, you're going off to this institute. Okay, bye, son.
Wow.
And he joins the X-Men.
Wow.
Yeah, and so that's where it went back to the square one of where we started with X-Men #1. And so, yeah, unfortunately for us, there is no live-action counterpart of Conquistador. And I don't think they'll ever make him. That seems like a big stretch. He's very tropey. But yeah, while Hank has X-Men Avengers adjacent adversaries in the comics, damn well near or over 600 adversaries in the comic books alone.
My gosh.
Yeah, the rest of these we'll mention on the film side just for the hell of it, since they're not beast skewing. So
Yeah.
he at least interacted or was in the film proximity with William Stryker, portrayed by Brian Cox in X2, Danny Huston in X-Men Origins Wolverine, and then John Hellman in X-Men Days of Future Past and Apocalypse. Quick refresher. William Stryker was a mutant hater, military man turned evangelist in the comics. Stryker sought Xavier Cerebro technology and wanted to use it for mutant genocide.
Love
Eek.
that. Yeah, totally
Crazy.
normal.
Yeah, totally normal.
That guy hates mutants.
Oh yeah, terrible. Which also, plot twist, his parents in the comics, mutants.
Of course.
Right? That's how it happens.
It's usually exactly
Always
how it
happens.
is.
Yeah. Fun fact, IGN ranked Stryker number 70 on their top comic book villains of all time list.
Number 70,
Out
as
of-
in like top 100?
Probably. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Crazy. I was like, okay. And then there was the Hellfire Club, portrayed by Kevin Bacon as Sebastian Shaw, Jason Fleming as Azazel, Alex Gonzalez as Riptide, January Jones as Emma Frost, and Zoe Kravitz as Angel Salvador. First and last seen in 2011's X-Men First Class. 2011. Jeez, Louisa.
That's 13 years ago.
That's almost 15 years ago. Almost
It's kind of
15.
gross.
That's
for
so
thinking about
wild. Wow. Yeah, so they were the Hellfire Club, both in the comics and as well as on screen, a global social club for wealthy elites. Its clandestine inner circle seeks to influence the world events for their own agenda. Yeah, that's pretty real. And then there was also Bolivar Trask, portrayed by Peter Dinklage. First and last seen in 2014's X-Men Days of Future Past. And he famously invented the Sentinels, and in the comics boasted he had the highest kill count of mutants.
Look, I will say, dude, those Sentinels in that movie,
Yeah.
I remember watching that movie in theaters.
Which ones?
Days
The
of-
future Sentinels that were like T-3000? Oh, yeah. Scary.
I was legitimately, I was like, because that's how the movie started, by the way.
Yeah.
First of all,
Yeah.
Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
It's like, the X-Men in hiding and everything.
Yeah.
Sentinels coming.
Yeah.
And they can adapt to
Yeah.
all of your powers. And I was just like,
Awful.
are they gonna murder every single X-Men
Yeah.
at the start of this movie?
Yeah, I was like, ooh, this is dark.
I was like, these guys are no
Yeah.
joke. And so
Yeah.
so that's coming from me. That was my first. That was my first introduction to Sentinels.
Interesting.
That's why. So then when I saw the first episode
Of X-97.
X-Men 97, no,
Yeah.
the very first of the original.
Oh, yes.
That's the only episode I've watched.
Night of the Sentinels part
Yeah.
1. Yeah.
So I was just like, Oh, and then it's like, oh, it's a Sentinel Pro, and I was like, oh,
yeah, it's all coming together.
And the Bolivar Trask thing, I was like, yeah, all my homies hate Bolivar Trask.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then of course in X-97, speaking of the first and second, the second episode more so, Master Mold and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
That's all. It's all the same
part of the
program.
Sentinel program.
And so he just keeps, obviously, like as technology does, it kept advancing. And of course, in the future and Days of Future Past, they were able to concoct this crazy, like, it got everybody's DNA, every possible version of a
it's
mutation.
like an insane,
super scary.
Yeah.
Super scary.
Yeah.
They were scary. And they were like, God, I don't quite remember, but they had that head that didn't really have a head, and it like
dude,
could
that
blast
was
things.
scary.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god,
And so many people got stabbed.
I was like, I'm legitimately like scared of these.
It's
guys.
uncomfortably scary.
Yeah.
It was great, great depiction though. But yeah, so Bolivar was very proud of the fact that I was almost gonna make this a pop quiz question for you, but his mutant kill count is 16,521,618. Very specifically in the comics.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of people that he has killed just for being mutants, for the record.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so, as we just said, the Days of Future Past version, my goodness, bleak.
Yeah, I hated that guy. I hated Peter Dinklage in Days of
He
Future
was
Past.
so good. I remember there, of course, being the fanboys, why is Peter Dinklage, portraying him? But who was it? I think it might have been Bryan Singer. Somebody that was directing or producing made a fantastic point in that Peter Dinklage, no matter what this man's stature is physically, his presence
is big. Yeah.
Huge, like formidable presence, especially in his voice, which again, he is a Shakespearean stage actor. Like he is fantastic.
He has presence.
Tremendously talented, yeah. And so what he brought to the table as Bolivar Trask in Days of Future Past is so phenomenal.
Yeah, you
in its
hated
own
the guy.
right. Yeah,
you
really
hated him.
Yeah, you wanted him to like cease to exist.
Yeah.
And he did a fantastic job of that character that is truly so hateable. So yeah, cheers to Peter Dinklage, just not the character so much. And then the most honorable of mentions for, last but not least, Jean Grey Phoenix. At least the version portrayed by Sophie Turner in 2019's Dark Phoenix. And I put nothing more than she killed his girlfriend. The end.
Everybody was beefing with Jean Grey, man.
Oh, yeah,
I just
for sure.
feel like
Well,
everybody's just like,
it's like what you said in the last episode.
yeah.
Redheads are crazy. Jean Grey
It's
is
just like-
psychotic.
Yeah, like at some point, it's Jean Grey versus everybody. That's what I've gotten
quite
from the
literally.
last two trilogies.
Yeah.
That's all I've gotten.
She's Omega level.
Yeah.
Did you get with Omegas, man?
Yeah, like I remember seeing X-Men: The Last Stand. I've said this before in other episodes.
Yeah.
I was just like, my memory of X-Men: The Last Stand was just being the most chaotic, just the most chaotic movie,
Yeah.
and it's everybody against Jean Grey because she's just so telepathically like absurd.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Jean!
I love it especially because you can just see the face that goes along with the tone.
No, Jean! Jean! No!
Yeah.
And then Dark Phoenix, and it's like, yep. Just killing everybody.
Yep.
I mean, sure.
Exactly.
Why not?
Spare.
I can't
no
wait
expense.
to see who plays her in
The films.
the MCU.
It's gonna be it's big shoes to fill, but at the same time, like not really. Like I just hope they do it well. I hope they pick somebody that can really do it and isn't just an it girl.
Like, what if they just took the X-Men 97 and just made it a live action, and that's the live action MCU?
That'd be wild.
'Cause I like those stories, and those stories they're
amazing.
I mean, these first two episodes, and I feel like they're very true to the comics.
Yes, they are.
So, like, show our boy Scott Summers some love, you know?
I love Scott. I love
Show him
him
some
so
love in the
much.
live action films. Like, Wolvie's,
Yeah.
he's phasing out. He's doing one last hoorah,
Yeah.
you know, and cool.
Yeah.
But let's, where we at?
We'll see. The future looks so good for X-Men. I can't wait. So, speaking of the future, or at least other versions of it, other versions and in other media for Hank. So, we could quite literally talk about every single nuance of this subsection that we have, which are usually, I like to stay within the variants, the video games, animation, or others.
Yeah.
And so I was like, dude, we could literally talk about each one, but I'm going to keep it to variants and animation for very good reasons. So there is first up, there is a variant, Beast of Earth 295, otherwise known as Dark Beast of the infamous Age of Apocalypse. So this beast was particularly notable due to his dark nature, as the name suggests, and in a world without Charles Xavier, it just didn't bode well for Hank McCoy. He got very distraught and disgruntled and just didn't believe in the future that Charles Xavier had instilled in all of his original students. And so Dark Beast is a sadistic genius in the alternate reality. Hank didn't hold back when it came to twisted experiments in genetics involving fellow mutants, and he even dabbled in a little murder.
Dabbled? Okay.
He was just
as
like,
one does, like it's like some salt in a baking dish.
He's
Just dabble a little salt in there.
Exactly. He dabbled in it. He was like, oh, I haven't killed a person in about 30 days.
Sure.
Yeah,
like you're gonna if I don't kill a person, I'm gonna lose my subscription card.
Exactly.
Jeez.
Yeah, they made him very maniacal. And so in a similar vein, the more recent Earth 616 arcs, so we're talking like last summer, they were depicting a much darker beast who strayed from his usually like altruistic belief system in favor of what he believes in as an individual for the greater good. He even murdered Wolverine.
Damn, that's possible.
Right. Well, you have to remember this latest version of X-Men, at least when Jonathan Hickman and his legacy was concerned, is that he created them as immortals. They were able to be rebooted and reborn from these, using the Krakoan ways and all this good stuff. But he murdered Wolverine for inferring. He murdered Wolverine for interfering in his plans. Wolverine was resurrected, as they do, and then Beast had clones of himself to help him in his quest to dominate like his big plans of just deviating from this, unrealistic dream of humanity and mutant kind coexisting in a weird way. And so there was a big battle. The clones perished, but Beast himself survived, and he fled. His whereabouts are currently unknown. So there is this possibility in dialogue that the corrupted Beast, if you will, wasn't uploaded to the Krakoan mutant system. So if he dies and comes back, or the resurrected Beast that he might be now, hopefully he's the good one that everybody loves. But that's where he is in the comics right now. It's kind of crazy. And then on the other side of the spectrum, the animation version, once again, we would be remiss to not mention one of the most iconic performances in the character's lifetime in pop culture, X-Men 92 and 97, where he's voiced by the amazing George Buza. And he himself has also had his fair share of screen time and stories, some original, others derived from the comics. But, fun fact, George has also made an on-screen cameo. Do you remember this?
Oh, no.
So do you remember in X-Men 1, Rogue flees from the mansion and she's trying to get a hitchhike and she's like...
Oh, that's him?
A bus driver gets her.
Yeah.
That's George Buza.
Oh, my gosh.
That's the OG Beast. And he's the trucker that gave Rogue a ride while she was hitchhiking.
Love that.
Love it. And I think I did my binge a while ago.
Yeah.
But isn't that the part where like Sabretooth they put the log in the road and he
I just started rewatching that. Yeah. I haven't finished it yet, but
George Buza. You got to rewind it a little because his natural voice is very Beast-like.
Okay.
He does. He doesn't have the same sort of super duper smooth like butter like peacefulness to him, but you can hear it very easily. He's just phenomenal. I absolutely adore him as well. And then almost was. So I honestly didn't think I was going to find anything. I was like, maybe not. But there was actually an actor by the name of Benjamin Walker who had apparently bagged the role for the new wave of films, beginning with First Class. However, he was unable to commit due to a scheduling conflict with a stage show he had already signed on for. So while Nicholas Hoult got the role after the fact, we did get to see Benjamin emerge in the MCU in some form. And you probably don't know this because you didn't see Jessica Jones season 3.
I did not.
But there's this character by the name of Eric Geldin, a mysterious new character and he became a somewhat love interest for Jessica in the 3rd season.
Yeah.
I quite liked him. I liked him a lot because you couldn't quite trust him. He was kind of like a gray area character where you're like, is he gonna like deceive her? Like, is he gonna flip on her or what? And he wasn't super duper trustworthy, but they got along swimmingly. And I don't know if you remember this film. He was also in a film that I hate to admit I enjoyed, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Oh my God. Yeah, I remember that.
That's the guy.
Wow.
That's the guy. So he was Beast, but he couldn't do it. So
Damn.
then we got Nicholas Hoult. Yeah, he would have been great. I think he would have been. He kind of gave a very different look to him, at least as a human. But I would think I would have enjoyed him as Beast. But
Sure.
it's okay. But yeah, maybe in another life. So, future of the character in the MCU, Jeff. Any immediate thoughts as far as where we left off with him?
I mean, yeah, like we said, we just seen him in the Marvels. I guess the most at now. I don't think he'll ever get his own like solo thing.
Nah, never.
No. He's always a team player. He's always part of the team. I mean, obviously
sure.
he's in the X-Men 97.
Yeah.
You know, that's his own thing. Mm-hmm. The next time we'll probably see him, if that, like there's a huge there's a high possibility like he shows up in some form.
Yeah.
In Deadpool and Wolverine.
God, I hope so.
But as for like continuing reoccurrences of the character, maybe, possibly, not until like the core X-Men are ever established. Yeah. And right now we only have, as of right now, technically just the Fantastic Four. Yeah. Like of that side of things. So like that those guys need to get established. Yeah. And then you can get into the if we want to have if MCU wants to have their own Charles Xavier and all those guys. Yeah. Because it's like yeah, like Stewart, they're still here, but I mean, does the studio really want them to go through that again? Like, and even do the fans they want to see that again? Exactly. Some do. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah, for sure.
You also just have to be like, look,
yeah,
like the next time an X-Men movie might come out,
could
be 2027.
Exactly.
If that.
Yeah, I was gonna say 26 seems early.
Yeah,
like
because there's already things planned out for 2026 and 2025.
Yep.
So maybe
right
2027.
Right. Well, it's the same kind of dialogue that I have with people who are like, give Toby Spider-Man 4. I'm like, guys, Toby is almost 50 years old. Yeah. Like, he is not that guy that you remember from Spider-Man 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And I remember very distinctly, I don't know if I said this in the episode, but even in No Way Home, in one of the screenings of like 8 that I went to, like when he popped up on screen, like some kid was like, he looks old. I was like,
does.
Oh,
I mean,
but he did because he looks his age.
But it's also like a realistic point of view. Like, imagine you're still you're Peter Parker and you just grow up and you're like, are you still going to do Spidey stuff?
Exactly.
Like, I think you're 35, 40. Like, damn, I'm still like superhuman though. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like my back.
Yeah, my back. It's my back. It's Peter B. Parker. It's all of that. And so the same would go. It would be for Sir Pat's and Ian McKellen. It's kind of like they're like what 92.
They're
up there.
They're up there.
So Let the man rest.
Yeah, like let him leave his legacy the way he did.
Exactly. It'd be amazing to get something, but
it's also like those. It's hard.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like even like McCOY is like was good.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
But I would love to see Hank with the Fab Five proper at least once on screen, even if he is of the mentor role and like everybody else is like doing their own thing. But I would like to see them because we've never had them in that proper form. Never. It's always been Cyclops and Jean and then variables. So to get Fab Five like straight up, like, oh,
to me, my X-Men.
To me, my X-Men.
What if you heard that in live action?
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen now that they don't need the Avengers
I'm
assemble
gonna say,
line.
is that like a?
I'm telling you, I told you.
Yeah, you did.
It's the same gravity, so I'm waiting for it. But it's so good. It's gonna be hard to top the '97 version, but
that's true.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
No, I'm excited. But yeah, I do think he'll take on a mentor role where he could be training somebody else or just the school, like he kind of was with Nicholas Hoult. He stopped being a student so much and more of a mentor. So yeah, I'd like that. But he doesn't have to be everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
Just pop in every now and then. I would like to see him with Mr. Fantastic. He could be with Doctor Strange. I don't care.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Like what if he's consulted by
be amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Hell, he would even fit with like Peter Parker. He could be like a, Professor Hank McCoy. So bring it. So last but not least, suggested reading. So I actually cobbled this together just before we started recording because I wasn't sure. There's so many great stories, but I did narrow it down to those classic stories I mentioned and have mentioned throughout the episode. The X-Men 49 through 53 at the very back end of each issue, detailing Hank's origin stories. The issues collected in the Beauty and the Beast collection.
Nice.
Like I said, there's a storyline, and there was an episode of 92 by the same title, different stories. But that collection is by team Jim Shooter and Nocenti, Jim McCann, Frank Springer, and Don Perlin, which chronicles the time where Dazzler was outed as a mutant and her career and life were never the same. But Hank steps in, tries to save the day. They actually get together for a bit. It's very interesting. X-Men 92, you've heard this before. I'll keep saying it till I die. There's nothing more to say on that. And then last but not least, Amazing Adventures number 11, where Hank becomes his furriest self yet.
Love that.
Yes. And gray. And with that, my dear friends, is the end of the show. Thanks for listening. Our next episode. So it's time for another mini Marvel. We'll be discussing a bit of the latest topics, but yes, like I think we're gonna skew real heavy on X-Men 97. Like it's on.
It's pretty much mostly that, and if any other trailers release or something, whatever,
which could happen.
Maybe possibly because it'll be April already by the time we record that. So
yep.
Yeah.
Gonna be a good time.
Oh yeah.
So join us in a couple weeks from now for that. And finally, a thank you to all of our Patreon supporters and a special We Are Groot salute to Edgar, Andrea, Ashley, Ariel, Andrew, Tyler, Melanie, Joe, Liz, Robin, Ed, Laura, Eve, Jenny, Chris, Nats, Katie, and Sherry. It never gets easier. And if you like what you hear, please follow us on social at STRKCNTRST. And don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe.
Once again, thanks for listening, and we will catch y'all in the next one.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Mutants! Yes, I am. Perhaps you self-appointed social engineers don't realize the crucial role mutation plays in species evolution. Get him! I'm sorry, gentlemen. Your anger at the inexorable alienation of late 20th century life is sadly misdirected.